Hey everybody, today we're going to look at how you can create a built test. So there's two ways that you can access built test. So one way is you can go to your teacher page and you can come down to My Assignments and then you can find Create a Built Test. That's one way. Another way from that main menu page when you come in is you can click on the Built Test Library. So if I was on the main page, I could also click Built Test Library. And over here on the side, it says Build a Test. So you can do that either way. So if I'm on the teacher page and I go to Create a Built Test, I am going to build a test. First, I would need to name it. So I need to determine what my topic is going to be. What am I going to be assessing? So I'm going to name it. I'm going to call it Sample Test since I'm not going to use this test. And then I'm going to pick my questions. So here in South Carolina, our South Carolina standards start in second grade and reach up to high school. And then we also use U.S. programs or national standards for kindergarten and first grade. So if I am going to choose fourth grade, I'm going to assess math, and then I am going to assess place value today. So I'm going to click on place value. It's going to load my questions. It's going to tell me how to filter my question type. So if there's a certain type of question that I want, I have 7 choices right now. I can select all of those if I want to have a combination of tests, combination of question types within my test, or I can deselect certain ones if I do not want those options. Right now I'd like to see all the choices. It's also going to show me that I have DOK level 1, 2, and 3 questions available. So I'm going to go into my practice questions and I'm going to go through, and you're going to see that you have your question, you have a sample question, and then you also have that DOK level available. So I can scroll up and down. As you see, you also have your add button. So I'm going to determine which question I want to use. Right now I'm just going to choose 5 questions to make my test. So if I want to use my test, I might choose this question. 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to do this one as my 5th question. Notice that if I change my mind and I no longer want to use this question, I can just click it and it's going to say remove and it is no longer included. Over here it also is going to keep track of how many questions you've added. So you can see that I have 4 questions. And I said I wanted to have 5 questions, so I'm going to come back down and I'm going to pick one more question to make my 5. So I think I've decided I want this question. So I have all of my questions and I'm scrolling quickly. Notice that I'm under the practice questions. I also have assessment questions available. So I can come up here and I could choose assessment questions as well if I would like to. So if I wanted to pick one of these, I might choose 3 more questions up here as well. And so now I have 8 questions total. Notice that it says 8 questions, and then I have the option to cancel it or save it. So I'm going to save that, and it's also going to tell you my standard, and it's going to tell you how many questions I selected. If I wanted to go in my built test and have a review question as well, because I like to go back and hit those topics that I've already covered and always have like 1 or 2 extra questions, you have that option. So I can go in and I can make sure that my kids still know how to read and write numbers because we've been discussing that. And I can pull in one question that goes in read and write numbers and I just press save. And now I have 9 questions, and I would like to have an even 10. So I might put in one more, and it's going to be review, and it's going to be addition and subtraction. So I love how in built test questions, or built test, you can add and subtract the questions that you need and manipulate this test in just the way you need it to be. You can select your questions, you can edit the questions, you can choose, select, deselect, and choose the level of rigor involved in those questions. So I'm going to pull one more addition subtraction question to round out my test, and I'm going to choose this one. Okay, notice that I have one, and I'm going to save my selection. Now I have 10 questions. So here is the important piece. When I have finished adding all of my questions, I need to make sure that I scroll all the way down and notice that it says save to my library and exit, or I can create an assignment with it now as well. You want to save it to your library. Okay, and notice that it is just a sample test because that's what I titled it. If I change my mind on what I want to call it, I can just come to the pencil and I can change the name of it. So I might call it place value sample test. And I can go through, I picked my questions. Okay. Now, when I save it to my library and exit, notice that I have not assigned it to any of my students yet. So I have it available. So if I want to plan ahead and build my test, I have them ready to go. When I am ready to assign them to my students, I'm going to click the pencil and I'm going to click next. I already have selected my questions, and then I'm going to create my assignment. Okay, I'm going to give it, it already has a title. I'm going to assign the dates. If this is a test or a quiz and I want to enforce the dates that I will not allow students to complete this activity after the due date, then I would turn this on and no one will be able to submit the practice after the due date. It depends on how you're going to use this assignment. You can activate it now or you can wait and activate it later. Okay, and you can randomize the questions. So that means that they'll get them all in a different order and no students will see the questions in the same order. Okay, and then I'm going to press next, and then I'm going to select the students I want to see this assignment. So I'm going to choose, you can choose all of your students by selecting the whole class, or you can just select a handful of students that you're creating this built test for, especially if you're using it as a review. Okay, and then I'm going to press save and exit. Now you see that it has been assigned to my students. Okay, and you can always come back to the magnifying glass and preview that built test, and you can assign it to students here as well. And then when you are ready, after the kids have finished completing this activity, you can review the results.